interrupt our program of dance music to bring you a special bulletin from the Intercontinental Radio News. The Mount Jennings Observatory, Chicago, Illinois, reports observing several explosions of incandescent gas occurring at regular intervals on the planet Mars.
Listening in Newark, New Jersey, was 11-year-old Gloria Widelock and her family.
Shortly after that, there was an interruption again. And the interruption was that there was something happening in Grover's Mill, New Jersey.
It is reported that at 8:50 p.m., a huge flaming object, believed to be a meteorite, fell on a farm in the neighborhood of Grover's Mill, New Jersey, 22 miles from Trenton. The flash in the sky was visible within a radius of several hundred miles.
People that month were used to bulletins from Prague, Berlin, London. But suddenly, a small farm town in New Jersey took on the same national spotlight.
I turned up the volume, and that attracted my aunt and mother's attention. They said, "What is that?" I said, "Apparently there are spaceships coming towards planet Earth." And they said, "Really?" And I said, "So is that on the news here?"
In Grover's Mill and other places, many people missed the announcement that it was only a play. They joined the broadcast in the middle after listening to something else. That happened to the family of Richard Stives.
We were all listening to Charlie McCarthy, and then we got a little bored, I guess. That's what it was. And somebody pushed the button, and that's when we hit the right button. I don't know what the radio station was then, and we heard Grover's Mill. Somebody said, "Leave it there. Wait, leave it there. Let's see what it's all about."
Something's happening. Ladies and gentlemen, this is terrific.
He was describing, here, these things are coming out of this machine. You could hear the people, telling the crowd to get back and everything, And it's, like I say, it was so frightening. I said, well, how can this happen?
Lord, they're turning into flames. By the worship of fire. Spreading everywhere. Coming this way now, about 20 yards to my right.
It seems to be a huge ball of fire, and it's picking up speed, and ahead of it there seems to be heat, an intense heat. Things are burning in its path, and then we didn't hear the announcer's voice at all.
The dying announcer was one trick being played back at the CBS studios. Putting on an actor that sounded like FDR was another.
Citizens of the nation, I shall not try to conceal the gravity of the situation that confronts the country.
And while we didn't say, "This is the President of the United States talking to you," the voice was sufficiently resemblant that the inference was obvious. That was the only, I thought, sort of naughty thing we did that night. Everything else was just good radio.
Here is a bulletin from Basking Ridge, New Jersey. Coon hunters have stumbled on a second cylinder similar to the first, embedded in the Great Swamp 20 miles south of Morristown.
Once they started moving north, heading for Morristown, heading for the Great Swamp, we knew then that the Pulaski Skyway was not far, and Newark was next.
Newark, New Jersey. Newark, New Jersey. Warning. Poisonous black smoke pouring in from Jersey marshes. Reaches South Street. Gas masks useless. Urge population to move into open spaces. Automobiles use Route 7.
There was mass hysteria, not only in my apartment, but in the whole building. We were going to die, and that was absolutely what we all thought.
Grandpa, like I said, got up, put chairs under the doors. We pulled the shades down. And we all sat around the radio.
Quietly, my father got away from the table, and he was wetting towels, and he started to put the towels around the window because the gases would be coming first.
I've never been that scared in my whole life.
And my mother was crying. The neighbors came in to kiss us goodbye and to hug us. My mother tried to make a phone call to her father and her sisters in New York, but she could never get through. The lines were very busy. She just wanted to say goodbye.
A bulletin is handed me. Martian cylinders are falling all over the country. One in Chicago.
They said on the show something about there have been sightings over Chicago, and at that we were all over the cage like three canary birds, you know. I was basically cool physically, but my aunt and mother ran up the walls, across the ceiling, out the window, flew around over Clark Street and came back in the hotel. And they were basically flipped out and panicked. It was not funny at the time. It's only funny now, if indeed now. We had to get out, they thought. I said, where? And they said, we'll go over to Holy Name Cathedral. They thought it would be better to get killed there.
People are holding service here below us in the cathedral. This may be the last broadcast. This is the end now. Smoke comes out, black smoke drifting over the city. It's reached Times Square. People are trying to run away from it, but it's no use.
Then we burst into the lobby, which to our great surprise was absolutely calm. People reading, smoking cigars, dozing in the chairs by the potted palms. And something immediately told me that that was inconsistent with the end of the world. There should be a little more excitement when the end of the world comes along, for gosh sakes. You know, a few car crashes in the street or something. And then at that moment, I noticed that in the radio that was playing in the lobby area, there was another program on. And what little I knew about life, I knew that if there was a big event such as the final days or whatever, it really would not be one network's exclusive.
By the time of the commercial break, many people weren't listening. They were jamming the roads or the phone lines. The New Jersey State Police were swamped with phone calls that night. Callers hadn't heard the mid-break announcement or Wells sign-off.
This is Orson Welles, ladies and gentlemen. Out of character, to assure you that the War of the Worlds has no further significance than as the holiday offering it was intended to be. And if your doorbell rings and nobody's there, that was no Martian, it's Halloween.
And it was then, with hell breaking loose all over the country, that Orson went into his rather dubious little joke about, this is our Halloween contribution to the nation, and which was taken in bad part by a good many people at that point.
The folks here in Grover's Mill, New Jersey, certainly took it in bad part that their town had been chosen at random as the landing site for the mythical invaders. Writer Howard Koch had dropped his pencil on a map. There are no plaques here, no monuments to an event that never happened. It's said that some people, in panic, fired shotguns at that old water tower there, mistaking it for a Martian. Maybe so. Anyway, the fear soon turned to anger. No sooner was the broadcast over than the phones began to ring in New York. And the first caller, from Michigan, threatened to kill Orson Welles. The fear was on the other foot.
Well, we knew we were beginning to be in trouble then, because then the next call was a threat to bomb the CBS building on Madison Avenue. So what we also knew that the CBS brass would be coming over to talk to us about what we seemed to have done. So we all hid in the ladies' room.
Then came the reporters, their notebooks filled with rumors.
They behaved simply horribly because they were trying to find out. So they would say things like, well, you've heard about the 8 people who were killed on the highway in New Jersey. Have you heard any other deaths? And another guy would say, well, you know, you've heard about the casualties in Ohio. Have you heard of any more? So for about an hour there, we were profoundly convinced that we were mass murderers.
You must realize that
nobody had been killed, of course, but it was a chastened Orson Welles who met the press.
In 2 days, and I've had almost no sleep. Came rather as a great surprise to us that a story about a mythical invasion by monsters from the planet Mars should have had so profound an effect upon radio listeners.
There was a danger that we were in real trouble legally, and that would mean CBS was in trouble.
You were aware of terror at the time you were giving this role? Were you aware that terror was going on throughout the nation?
Oh, no, of course not.
We were pretty sure we were going to lose the show. I don't know whether we thought we were going to jail. I don't think we had much time. You know, you don't think of these things when in the middle of the crisis, when it's going on.
Do you think there ought to be a law against such enactments as we had last night as a result of that?
I don't know what the legislation would be. I know that almost everybody in radio would do almost anything to avert the kind of thing that has happened, myself included, but I don't know what the legislation would be. We simply, radio is new and we are learning about the effect it has on people. Learned a terrible lesson.